I stood in the doorway of that private dining room at the Crestwood Country Club, the weight of the navy blue power suit settling on my shoulders like a second skin. My grandmother Rose's pearl earrings felt warm against my neck, a quiet reminder of the woman who had always seen me when no one else did. Elena Vargas, my lawyer, stood right beside me, her leather folder tucked under her arm like a shield. Through the frosted glass, I could see them all gathered, my mother Diane in her soft cream cashmere, directing the staff about wine pairings with that familiar sharp tone, my father Robert leaning against the fireplace with a scotch in hand, his face already flushed, and my older brother Ryan holding court at the center of the table, gesturing wildly as aunts, uncles, and cousins laughed at whatever polished story he was spinning. The room smelled of roasted turkey, sage stuffing, and expensive cologne. Crystal glasses clinked. Laughter bubbled up. They were dressed for celebration, for family photos, for the perfect holiday post on social media. None of them had noticed me yet. My pulse thrummed steadily in my ears. This was the moment everything changed. But before I tell you what happened when I walked through that door, let me take you back to how we got here. Because the explosion at that Thanksgiving table didn't come out of nowhere. It had been building my entire life. My name is Ava Thompson. I'm 29 years old, and I own a small floral boutique called Petal and Vine just outside Denver. For as long as I can remember, I was the invisible one in our family, the quiet daughter, the afterthought. My grandparents, Rose and Victor, practically raised me while my parents poured all their attention into Ryan. Ryan was the golden child, the real estate agent with the easy smile, the quick talk, the endless stream of sure things that somehow never quite worked out. It started small, the way these things always do. When I was a teenager, my straight-A report cards barely earned a nod at family dinners, while Ryan's mediocre grades were celebrated like major victories. My first small business loan approval got a polite "that's nice, honey." Ryan's first real estate commission? Champagne toasts and backslaps all around. By the time we were adults, the pattern was so deeply ingrained I almost stopped noticing it. Almost. My mother Diane has always been emotionally distant with me. She called my flower shop "that little hobby of yours," even after I turned a profit in my second year and paid off my loans early. My father Robert? He stayed silent through it all. Never defended me. Never got involved. Just checked out. Ryan, meanwhile, was reckless with money, expensive cars, risky flips, bad investments, but somehow my parents never saw the pattern. Or maybe they chose not to. The real fracture came in 2020. I was in the hospital recovering from emergency surgery when Ryan somehow got into my business laptop while dropping off some things from my apartment. $7,000 vanished from my account. When I confronted him, he shrugged it off with that winning smile. "I had a deal closing. I'll pay you back next week." He never did. My parents told me not to make a fuss. "He's going through a rough patch," Diane said. "Don't add more stress to the family." Then came the summer of 2021. We were at a family barbecue talking about my grandparents' declining health when Diane casually announced, "We all know Ryan will handle the estate. Ava doesn't have the head for that kind of money." I sat there with my MBA, the one I'd earned while building my shop from scratch, and said nothing. As usual. Later that year they pressured me to co-sign a loan for one of Ryan's real estate deals. The inspection report showed major structural problems they'd tried to hide. When I refused, they stopped inviting me to holidays. That Thanksgiving and Christmas, I sat alone in my apartment arranging flowers, wondering when I'd become the villain in their story. The final straw before everything shifted was early 2022. I'd been dating Jordan, a talented landscape architect who worked with native Colorado plants. We collaborated often, his outdoor designs perfectly complementing my interior arrangements. When I finally brought him to a family dinner, Ryan sized him up immediately. Across the table, loud enough for everyone. He smirked and said, "So, Ava finally found herself a flower boy." No one defended me. Not my mother. Not my father. Jordan squeezed my hand under the table and changed the subject. In the car afterward, he asked gently, "Has it always been like this?" I nodded, throat tight. "That's not normal," he said. For words that cracked open everything I'd accepted as normal. Through all of it, my grandparents were my safe place. Grandma Rose taught me everything about flowers, hours in her garden naming species, explaining the language of blooms. Grandpa Victor taught me money, setting up my first business account, walking me through investments. They came to every school event, helped me move, were my first customers at shop opening. I visited them constantly in their final years, bringing flowers, groceries, driving them to appointments, just sitting and listening. Ryan visited maybe twice a year, usually when he needed something. My grandparents lived modestly in their paid-off home in Evergreen, with solid investments from Grandpa's engineering career. We never talked inheritance. It felt wrong. I just wanted more time with them. Grandpa Victor passed first in spring 2023. Quietly, in his sleep. At the funeral, Ryan played the devoted grandson perfectly, arm around Grandma. Solemn face for the cameras. But afterward, he started pushing her to sell the house. Downsize before the market turns. I caught him going through financial papers once. He claimed he was just helping organize. Grandma Rose saw through it. One evening while we sorted Grandpa's clothes, she patted my hand. "Ava, there are some legal things we need to discuss." The next day, she introduced me to Elena Vargas. "She's going to make sure everything goes smoothly. I don't want you worrying." I didn't fully understand then. But she was preparing for what came next. Grandma Rose held on for 6 more months after Grandpa passed. The cancer had spread. But I like to think part of her strength came from not wanting to leave me alone with them. In her final weeks, suddenly Ryan and my parents became attentive, visiting more, bringing food, asking about her comfort. I sat in the corner arranging the fresh flowers I brought daily, watching the performance with detached fascination. The night before she died, she asked everyone else to leave. Alone with me, she gripped my hand with surprising strength. "They're going to show their true colors," she whispered. "When they do, remember you're stronger than all of them combined." I kissed her forehead and told her to rest. She passed the next morning with me holding her hand. The funeral was at Roseview Chapel on a crisp October day. I arranged all the flowers myself, white lilies, pink roses, and marigolds, her favorites. I sat numb in the front row as relatives offered hollow words. Then Ryan stood to speak. In his tailored suit, voice catching perfectly, he talked about family loyalty and honoring her memory through careful stewardship of her estate. He looked straight at our parents. "We'll make sure her legacy nurtures this family." In that moment, I knew they'd already spent the money in their minds, selling the house, dividing accounts. They assumed I'd stay silent. As always, I stood quietly and walked out. No one noticed. In my car, in the parking lot, something inside me hardened into resolve. I wasn't asking for a seat at their table anymore. I was flipping the table. I texted Elena, "Let's proceed with the LLC. Move everything by end of day tomorrow." She replied instantly, "Already prepared. Stay strong." What my family never knew was that 2 months before she died, Grandma Rose and Elena had met with me. The will left everything to me. The Evergreen house valued at about $475,000, joint investments of $312,000, life insurance worth $125,000, the full $900,000 estate. "They won't accept this easily," Elena had warned. So we created Marigold Legacy LLC, named after Grandma's favorite flower. Right after her passing, we transferred all assets into the LLC for protection. Why me alone? Grandma had smiled sadly when I asked. Ryan doesn't need it. He needs to learn to stand on his own. But you, my girl, you'll grow something beautiful. I told no one. Not while she was alive. After. I wanted to see how they'd act when they thought the estate was up for grabs. The day after the funeral, Diane called. We need to discuss the house. Ryan thinks we should list it before month end. No, how are you? Just straight to business. When I suggested waiting for the will reading, she brushed it off. Your grandmother would want us to move quickly. Ryan has a colleague ready to list it. They were already packing, staging, measuring for new drapes, discussing kitchen remodels. I played along, nodding, listening to Ryan talk about top dollar, Diane claiming furniture, Robert calculating fair divisions, all while knowing none of it belonged to them. Meanwhile, I planned quietly. The Denver market was hot. With the inheritance, I could open a second location in upscale Cherry Creek. The house would sell high. Insurance money would be my emergency fund. More importantly, I prepared emotionally for the fight. Years of being overlooked had taught me to avoid conflict. This time would be different. Grandma's words echoed, "You're stronger than all of them combined." October blurred with secret preparations and their presumptions. Diane sent apartment listings in your price range. Ryan called with investment opportunities needing seed money. Robert avoided me. Then the text began. Diane suggesting I get 10% of house proceeds because you spent time with them. Ryan saying I should be grateful they're not contesting that dumb clause so I could keep my little flower shop. I forwarded them to Elena. She replied, "Vultures." The will reading was set for before Thanksgiving. But, impatient, they scheduled a family Thanksgiving and estate planning session at Crestwood on the holiday itself. Private room. Their territory. I accepted politely. Then told Elena, "We're doing this on Thanksgiving." That morning I dressed deliberately, the power suit, sleek hair, precise makeup, fastening Grandma's pearls. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back, purposeful, armored. "Today's the day." "Grandma," I whispered. Elena arrived at 3:30. "Ready?" she asked. "I've been ready my whole life," I replied. We arrived exactly at 4 o'clock. They were already laughing inside. We watched from the lobby a moment. Elena reminded me, "You've done nothing wrong. Their reactions aren't your responsibility." I squared my shoulders and pushed open the door. The conversation faltered as heads turned. Diane recovered first. Smile fixed but eyes weary. "Ava, you're late. And you've brought a guest." "This is Elena Vargas," I said steadily. "Grandma's attorney." "And mine." A beat of silence. Ryan chuckled dismissively. "We've got the family lawyer handling estate stuff." He gestured toward Gerald, my father's colleague. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked to the head of the table, the spot Diane had claimed, and set down my purse. Elena positioned herself beside me, opening her folder deliberately. "Thanks for organizing this, Mom," I said. Perfect time to clear up misunderstandings about Grandma's will. Diane's smile tightened. "We're eating first, Ava. Business after." "Actually," I replied, "we should address this now before anyone plans further for assets they don't own." The room went silent. Robert straightened. Ryan moved beside Diane. "What's that supposed to mean?" I nodded to Elena. She produced a remote. The large screen behind us came to life, showing the will. "This is Margaret Waite Rose Thompson's last will and testament," Elena stated clearly. "Dated shortly before her passing. Properly executed. Notarized. Filed." She advanced slides, the clause leaving everything to me. The deed transferred to Marigold Legacy LLC the day after the funeral. Investment statements showing transfers. Life insurance beneficiary change naming me sole. The no contest clause highlighted boldly. The silence was absolute. I could hear the clock ticking, distant kitchen sounds, heating hum. Then Diane lunged forward. Face twisted. This is ridiculous. You manipulated her. Elder abuse. Ryan jumped in. You don't even know how to handle money.
Ava.
They were confused. Robert said nothing. Face pale. Elena stepped forward. Rose was of sound mind. Any contest would fail and trigger the no contest clause. Assets are already transferred and protected. Ryan slammed the table. You tricked them, but then a voice from the side. Actually, Rose knew exactly what she was doing. All heads turned to my Aunt Rachel.
She stood.
I knew she wouldn't trust you with money. Ryan, not after you tried pressuring her into that timeshare scam last year. She looked at me with respect. Ava was the only one who visited constantly. Took them to appointments. Called just to check in, not to ask for favors. Murmurs of agreement rippled. Cousins nodded, sharing memories of my presence versus their absence. The room's energy shifted. For the first time, I wasn't the afterthought. Diane's face moved from rage to calculation. Ava, sweetie, we're just surprised. Of course, Grandma wanted to take care of you. But surely, she meant sharing. No, I said quietly but firmly. She didn't. And we all know why. I looked at Ryan. She didn't trust you after you pressured Grandpa for that failed loan. To Diane, she didn't appreciate you dismissing my business as a hobby while I built it profitably. To Robert, she was disappointed you never stood up for me once in 29 years. I took a breath. No sharing. The estate is mine legally and morally. Any challenge means litigation you will lose. I picked up my purse, suddenly tired but lighter. I think I'll skip dinner. Happy Thanksgiving. As Elena and I walked out, I heard my cousin whisper,
Damn.
Ava's got steel in her spine. The aftermath was swift and predictable. Ryan filed a contest claiming undue influence. Denied within 2 weeks, the judge cited documentation of competence and long-term planning. Diane posted vague social media rants about people who manipulate the elderly. I responded publicly with a screenshot of the no contest clause and a note about defamation costs. It went viral in our circles. Robert texted to talk. I didn't reply. By January, threats stopped after Elena's cease and desist. I listed the Evergreen house in February. Sold quickly for $510,000 in the hot market. Used proceeds for down payment on Cherry Creek commercial space for my second location. Investments diversified wisely. Just as Grandpa taught. I established a scholarship in Rose and Victor's names at my old high school for horticulture or business students. The new shop opened in May, floor-to-ceiling windows. Custom displays. Wedding consultation area. Workshop space for design classes. On opening day, sunlight streamed across polished floors as I arranged white peonies and blue delphiniums. A long-time customer said, "This place is gorgeous. I heard about what you did, standing up to your family. Your grandparents would be proud." I smiled, thinking of Grandma's garden. I think they would be. Life moved forward beautifully. Things with Jordan deepened. His support through the ordeal had been transformative. He was selected for a major sustainable garden project at Denver Botanical Gardens and suggested partnering with me for workshops on native cutting gardens. One evening he reached for my hand across the table. "My lease is up soon. What would you think about finding a place together?" I didn't hesitate. "I'd love that." A week later, I drove to Evergreen to transplant some of Grandma's perennials, peonies, columbines, marigolds, before new owners redesigned. The cool soil between my fingers felt grounding. I stopped at the cemetery. placing fresh marigolds on their graves. "I'm doing okay," I told them softly. "Better than okay. Building something lasting, worthy of what you gave me." The wind rustled through aspens, gold-green leaves shimmering. I could almost hear Grandma's voice, "You're stronger than all of them combined." Then came the eviction notice for my original shop. The property had new owners wanting changes. The letterhead? Ryan's Real Estate Company. His signature. I should have been furious. This was the space I'd built from scratch. But I felt only detached amusement. Petty revenge was all he had left. I called Elena. 2 days later, I hand-delivered an envelope to Ryan's office. "What's this?" he asked. Hostility clear. "Just some paperwork," I said pleasantly. "Marigold Legacy LLC has acquired the mortgage on this building. We'll honor existing leases for now." His face drained of color as he scanned the documents. "You can't do this." "Actually,
I can.
it's just business." "Ryan." "Nothing personal." Of course it was a little personal. But mostly smart investment, commercial real estate with growth potential. Grandpa would have approved the numbers. As I turned to leave, he called out, "Is this how it's going to be? Using Grandma's money to punish us?" I paused. "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just no longer allowing myself to be punished for succeeding." I walked into the June sunshine, lighter with each step. The second location thrived. The botanical partnership took shape. Jordan and I found a beautiful downtown loft. Family was never perfect, but I'd found my voice, my strength, my worth. I had stopped begging for a place at their table and built my own, one with room only for those who truly valued me. One afternoon, my parents showed up at the new Cherry Creek shop. Diane's eyes widened at the elegant space. Robert hung back awkwardly. "This is impressive," Diane admitted, touching exotic orchids. "Thank you," I said, continuing a bouquet for a customer. "We've been thinking," she continued quietly. "Perhaps we were hasty. The house is yours." "Of course. But maybe we could advise on investments. Help manage such a large sum." "I've got it handled," I replied. "The portfolio is performing well." Robert cleared his throat. "Ryan's having financial difficulties. Market downturn. New baby coming."
Ah.
"The real reason." "Congratulations to Ryan and his wife," I said neutrally. Diane's voice hardened. "He's family."
Ava.
"This is what family does. We help each other." "Is that what you did when he stole from my business account? Or humiliated me and Jordan at dinner? Was that helping?" Robert studied succulents intently. Diane's lips thinned. "You've changed." "I haven't changed. I've just stopped accepting less than I deserve." I held the door open. "I have a consultation soon. I need to prepare." They left, backs rigid. No regret rose in me, only quiet certainty that I was finally living my truth. That evening with Jordan at dinner, he shared excitement about the gardens project. Then, serious, he said he'd been thinking about our future. We talked moving in together. I felt a little flip of joy. Later, walking through light snow, he asked about my parents. "It went as expected," I said. "They wanted something from me, not for me." "How do you feel?" he asked. I stopped, looking at stars breaking through clouds.
Free.
Like I've carried this weight forever, trying to earn love. A place at their table. Now I realize I don't want their table. I want my own. He smiled. "I like your table better." The next morning I felt lighter driving to the shop. I straightened arrangements, adjusted displays, breathed in the scent of fresh flowers and polished success. Boundaries were necessary. Respect essential. Consequences real. Family had taught me through absence what real love looked like, through Grandma and Grandpa's quiet presence, through Jordan's steady support, through my own growing strength. I'll never forget the shock on their faces when the truth dropped that Thanksgiving. But more powerfully, I'll never forget how it felt to stand tall in the life I built, one worthy of the inheritance, both financial and emotional. They left me, as I caught my reflection in the shop window, confident, capable, at peace. I knew I had claimed my place, not at their table, but at the head of my own. And that was enough.